Welcome to Mamahood After Trauma. I'm Emily, your host. Here we share strategies and inspiration to help you heal and grow with kindness and understanding. Let's dive in. This is Mamahood After Trauma. Hey there, Mama. Before we dive in, I want to remind you to grab your Unlocking Peace Guide, a free resource designed to help you start creating calm, reclaim your peace, and manage your triggers with ease. Head over to my website, the link is in the show notes, to download it now. Hello, Mama, and welcome to this episode of the Mamahood After Trauma podcast. I'm so excited that you've taken some time out of your busy mama schedule to tune in and listen. Today, we are going to talk about boundaries after trauma. Did you just cringe? It's going to be a great conversation. We are joined today by Kaylea. Welcome.
Thank you for having me today. And yeah, it is kind of cringy, but they're important. And once we figure out like how to actually healthily set them, it's so vital.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, how did you get into this area of work?
Oh my, I survived domestic violence. And after that, I really focused on what I wanted to do with my life and what I wanted my future to be like. What would it look like? And it was completely different
Hmm.
from the life I had before. And it really stemmed down to realizing if I wanted the life that I wanted, that I had to actually acquire and set and hold boundaries. I hadn't had that for years. I was abused as a child, and then it kind of crept into my adulthood where I allowed that kind of treatment to continue because my boundaries were non-existent. And
Hmm.
so it was like, okay, look, I deserve better. I need to have my stuff in line, and boundaries are what's going to get me there. So that's really where I started, was creating boundaries around my dream life plan. And in doing so, I now have a six-figure business. I manage multiple seven-figure businesses. I help women create their own businesses and their dream lives and break free from violence and everything that's holding them back so they can have that dream life too, and really rewrite their story after trauma.
Wow, that is so powerful. So let's kind of clear the air and address the elephant in the room, so to speak. What is a boundary? Because they have a lot of misconception around them. So
Yeah,
let's clear that up first.
biggest thing I hear is, oh, boundaries are walls that are going to protect you from everyone else and you won't let anyone in. And I'm like, wrong.
Nope.
That's not what it is. 100%. Boundaries are there to serve you towards your dream life. Now, imagine you have a place on a map and you're like, that's where I want to go. That's my dream life. I know what steps I need to get there.
Hmm.
All along the side of the road are billboards being like, shiny object over here. Why don't you check out over here? How about this thing that doesn't align with your values? Do you want that? And there's so many distractions that are there to keep you living small. And so those boundaries are like guardrails for you. They're helping you realize, okay, I've set this boundary that says if something's on the other side of it, I will not accept it into my life. That does not mean all the people, because your life should be fulfilling. It should be filled with love and support and,
Mm.
beautiful community of other people. So we're not keeping out everybody. We want to bring in the positivity and the people that are going to help us reach our dream life path. But there will be people out there who are there as distractions and who will be on the other side of your boundary and who will test you into breaking that boundary so that you could have them in your life.
Hmm.
And then that negativity starts to seep in because you've opened this hole into this boundary and more negativity comes in. And
Hmm.
that's where the problem happens, right? And as you accept all these negative people into your life, you're not making room for the positive ones. So boundaries are not about keeping everyone out. It's about keeping the right people in your life and ensuring that you're not allowing these other distractions or negative people in your life as well.
Absolutely. And, boundaries are not about the other people. They are about you and what you deem acceptable in your life, how you want to be treated, how you expect to be treated. And,
Yeah.
that can be really hard for us as trauma survivors because we can be chronic people pleasers and scared to speak up for ourselves because we don't want so and so to be mad at us or whatever. Um, but those boundaries are a way of protecting yourself.
Yeah, in a way, 100%. It's a way of guiding you and protecting you on your path. And you can have boundaries around the smallest thing. Like I have a boundary from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's blocked off on my calendar. It says self-love, love yourself first. And so my boundary is in the morning, I serve myself first because if I serve myself, I am at a better mental, physical, emotional well-being state to be able to serve other people better. And yeah, I am a people pleaser, and I love that. I love that I get to please people and help them, but it's all about focusing on the right people and not pleasing people when it goes against our boundaries. That's a big one. Like, even if you love someone so much, if they're asking you to cross a boundary that you have firmly set and communicated, there
Mhm.
may be issues there that you should look at. And
Absolutely.
communication. If you got a boundary, you have to communicate it. We
Yeah.
we
Yeah, you
assume
can't just
people understand.
you can't just expect people to like read your mind.
I mean, come on. It would be easier, but that's
Yeah.
not how it is. And
Yeah.
so even something you would assume, like, don't cheat in a relationship. In my past relationships, I didn't, overtly say, hey, don't cheat on me. And so when they cheated on me, they would use that as like an excuse, like, oh, you didn't say this. And so in my relationships beyond that, I over communicate everything. I'm like, I just want to be clear that you
Who do you know?
understand. But it gives them the opportunity to, understand your boundary and to decide if they're going to respect that boundary. And if they choose to disrespect it after you've communicated it and its importance to you, there are some issues that you need to look at. I mean, people you love shouldn't be like, oh, that's a boundary, I'm going to go against it.
Yeah.
And it can be something, one thing that I set was do not yell at me. If you raise your voice to me, I, as a trauma response, shut down. I
Mhm.
kind of go into a shell and I close off emotionally, and that's not healthy for our relationship. So,
Mhm.
if you want our relationship to grow and to be strong, you cannot yell at me.
Mhm.
And in communicating that, I'm now with my husband. We've been together 10 years and we've not once had an argument because we just sit down and talk. And so it's like if you give someone that opportunity to see, like, here's a boundary, they very well could stick to it. And then you see, like, oh, my life is so much better when I have people who respect these boundaries.
Absolutely. So let's break it down. How do you go from a person who was not did not have a demonstration of boundaries, who is boundaryless, to creating boundaries? What was your process like?
It was essentially like a straw that broke the camel's back. It was
Mhm.
this very a pivotal moment in my life where my abuser was holding me down, yelling in my face, and my 2-year-old walked into the room. And I knew at that time I'm repeating a cycle because my mom told me the same story of my father doing that to her. And that was the time she knew she needed to leave. And I'm like, I knew this story, and here I am just replaying it in my life. And if I don't do something it's going to be something that passes on. It's a cycle that
Hmm.
they're going to see as this is acceptable love. This is how I should love someone else. This is how I should be loved. And I was like, that's not what I want for them. I didn't have the strength to leave by myself, but they gave me the strength to leave for them. And in doing so was, just this awakening moment of like, why am I accepting less? Why am I accepting such poor treatment from other people? Why am I treating myself like this? Like I am a worthwhile person who deserves that fairy tale romance that I don't, think actually exists. But if they make movies about it, it's got to exist. So I started to set those boundaries around like, look, if I'm going to have this, I need to change who I am. The person over here who has this dream life that I want, I'm not her yet. She is a different person. She's empowered, she's bold, she does what she wants, and I'm not quite there. I need to start working on how to change who I am so I can be her. And in order to do that, it was like, number one, I need to find those boundaries. I
Hmm.
need to actually set them, communicate them, and stick by them in every area of my life, relationship, friendship, family, career as well. And it has continued to serve me in that once I know and stood up for my worth and continue to do so, persist with it, I continue to, gravitate abundance and positivity towards me and able to help other people better because of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you look for a particular role model when you were going about this transition, or how did you decide what your boundaries would be?
So I kind of mirrored my boundaries off of what I didn't want anymore. I was like, okay, I'm not going to accept this kind of treatment. That's got to be on the other side of my boundary. I'm not going to be lied to. I'm not going to be yelled at. I'm not going to be cheated on. I'm not going to be hit. My children will not be treated this way as well. And make those, really clear so that I know, and make those really clear so that I know, like, this is on the other side of what I don't want this anymore. And in looking at it, I don't know that I actually had a specific role model that I looked up to so much as my future ideal self. I was, I had a support system in that I went and lived with my mother, and she helped me kind of regain my sense of self after the trauma. And I love her for it 100%. But I think I was just looking at who could I be if I actually wanted a fulfilling life, and what kind of person I would have to be to give that to my child as well. So it was like this ideal future self that I kept looking up to and going, I'm going to be her someday.
Yeah, that's I think that's what I did as well. Like I had to look at, okay, so you can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. That's not going to work. That's the definition of insanity. Um, so what's been happening and what result do I want instead of what I've been getting? And allow that to inform my action. Now, was it perfect every time? Absolutely not. It's a messy process. And communicating those boundaries, I don't know what your experience was like, Kaylee, but mine, I was terrified of communicating those certain boundaries to certain people because there are
Yeah.
certain relationships in our lives where we shouldn't have to communicate that you don't talk to me in a certain way or with a certain tone, or you need to respect my decisions as a parent.
Mhm.
Those are tough conversations to have.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so what tips can you give our listeners who are looking to add boundaries into their into their lives to
Yes.
further their healing.
Yeah. So you just think about that dream version of yourself, really envision it, see what she's doing in the morning and how that life looks like for you. And then start to create that plan of like, if I'm going to become this woman, who do I need to be? Like, what changes do I need to have in my life? Does this woman take care of herself? Because I don't. And so I might need to start taking better care of myself. Does this woman, get talked poorly to because I do? Well, no, she doesn't because she's successful and empowering and powerful. So I need to change that aspect, right? And you just set around these boundaries and they're normal, healthy boundaries. Like, don't
Mhm.
yell at me, don't hit me, don't call me names, don't talk down to me, like, respect my opinion, come to me for support. Different things that you feel like you shouldn't have to communicate. And while my history has told me that, like, yeah, you probably should communicate those things just to
Mhm.
be, just so you can say, hey, I said this, I brought it up to you. And you're gonna have to stick to them as well. And that's the hardest part is that
Yeah.
there are people that will love bomb you and will make you think that they're giving you the entire world. And the moment they start to get you emotionally, they start treating you poorly, and you start thinking, well, maybe I can change this, or this was just a one-off, or so I should just let it slip. But it's like you've set those boundaries, you communicated them to your person, and they chose to do this. Now, the
Yeah,
next step is your choice.
yeah. They chose. You
Yeah,
communicated it and they made a choice. It's not on you anymore. They made a choice.
exactly.
And so now you get to make a choice in what's my follow-up? How am I going to stick to
Yeah.
my boundary?
And even though it's uncomfortable to say, I'm sorry, but this is no longer going to work, remind yourself that not everybody is a fit for you. Just because that person didn't fit doesn't mean there's not someone out there. And
Hmm.
if you continue to hold on to this relationship where someone is clearly going against your boundaries, you're choosing this for yourself and you're saying yes to this instead of what you actually want because that person is filling a spot. So if you want to have that spot filled by someone that loves and supports you, you need to make sure it's open for that person to come into your life.
Absolutely. I tell my clients that when you say yes to one thing, you are saying no to another. So if you are saying yes to being talked down to, being name called, being belittled, being whatever, you're saying no to being loved for who you are, being accepted, being embraced.
And what a shame, because
Yeah.
that's not your story. That shouldn't be your story, girl, especially as a mama. Like, you've got to
Yeah.
be a prime example because your kids, they soak up everything. They see it, they soak it up, and then they put it back into the world. So it's like if you want them to put out positivity and to have a fulfilling and beautiful life, then you've
Mhm.
got to be a prime example of that. And it's not selfish either. I think it's like a beautiful thing because my kids now come to me and they point out positive things that they see about themselves, about other people, about me. They point out things that are unhealthy in movies, and they're like, man, if they would just sit down and talk. It's like, yeah, you're an example. Like, what example do you want to set? And it's not necessarily easy, you
No.
know, but it's so much better after it. Like the trauma, you heal
Hmm.
from it, and you're actually building that beautiful life. Like I look back and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I lived like that for so long. And I
Yeah.
can't believe I was so close to continuing the cycle for my child. I'm so thankful that I got out at a point where they don't remember it. No,
Mhm.
because that's really important is that, like I said, they soak it up.
Yeah.
And so I'm very thankful for that. And I wish that more people would say, like, look, you do deserve to be treated with respect.
Yeah. Yeah. You were born with worth.
Hmm.
Nobody outside of you can determine your worth. Nobody outside of you can determine how you deserve to be treated. You were
Yeah,
born worthy of being treated with love and kindness and nothing less.
100%. And you have the, great opportunity to welcome that into your life. It's just, what do you choose is
Yeah.
your story.
Yeah. And so if you need support, if you need a support system, if you need a community, reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out. Um, Thank you so much, Keely, for joining me today on the show. It was an absolute pleasure. How can our listeners connect with you further if they'd like to do so?
Yeah, you can find me at managebymagic.com and find all of our socials on there, and a place where you can get a free discovery call where we'll go over your dream life plan, your dream life business, and your dream year plan to really get you clarity and moving towards a better life.
Awesome, awesome. Have a lovely day. Thanks for listening to Mamahood After Trauma. If today's episode resonated with you, make sure to grab your Unlocking Peace guide from the link in the show notes to start your healing journey with practical tools. Remember, Mama, you're not alone in this. Together, we're mending the past so mamas can mama in peace. See you next time.